Hi, I'm Dr. Terry Susan Fine, Content Specialist for the Florida Joint Center for Citizenship, which is part of the School of Politics, Security, and International Affairs at the University of Central Florida in Orlando. Welcome to our Middle School Civics Highlights series. Today we look at Benchmark 1.1, in which we will analyze the influences of ancient Greece, ancient Rome, and the Judeo-Christian tradition on America's constitutional republic. In Part 1, we focus on the influence of ancient Greece and ancient Rome on America's constitutional republic. Here we see our two benchmark clarifications, one focusing on Greece, looking at civic participation, legislative bodies, polis, voting rights, and a written constitution, and the other focusing on Rome, in which we'll also look at civic participation, republicanism, representative government, rule of law, and separation of powers. So looking at our focus today, what we notice is that both in ancient Greece and in the ancient Roman civilizations, there were universal ideals that influenced the development of America's constitutional republic. Basically what this means is that even though ancient Greece and ancient Rome were just so different in terms of technology, location, other kinds of factors, nonetheless, there were various political and governmental practices that were introduced by the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans that ended up very much influencing the development of America's constitutional republic. These included self-government, democracy, the rule of law, and equality under the law that together were intended to support the protection of human rights. In essence, what the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans introduced was this idea that if the people govern themselves and there is a rule of law, a set of rules that govern everyone, whether they hold office or not, whether they have power or not, the concept of equality under the law, that means that a person, regardless of their social status, has equal legal status under the law, and taken together, we focus on this idea that human rights were protected. So what was the ancient Greek influence on America's constitutional republic? Well, first is this concept of civic participation. This means that the public was involved in local, state, national, and international government processes. Now, this doesn't mean that the public decided everything relating to government as it pertained to local, state, national, and international government processes, but rather the public was involved. One of the best ways to be involved in the public life is to be well informed. If a person is going to be communicating with public officials, playing a role in selecting those public officials, the best thing that they can do is to be well informed about the powers of those officials, the kinds of issues that they're dealing with at the present time, how they've handled issues in the past that were related to issues in the present time, and what was the outcome. And by doing that, their communication with government and their communication with one another about government is going to be that much stronger. There's also an emphasis on legislative bodies. Legislative bodies are chambers of government responsible for writing laws. In the United States, as well as in many other countries, we often refer to those as legislatures. So we see this concept that there are lawmaking bodies, groups of people, not individuals, but groups of people, bodies of legislatures that are responsible for writing laws. And we know that whenever we get a group of people together, there's not going to be such agreement that a decision is made quickly. Rather, it's in the process of discussion and compromise that people come up with the laws that they believe best serve the people. A polis is a city center or administrative center. The idea being that the people can come to that city center or administrative center, come together and have those important discussions and interactions with and about government. Voting rights. the right to select who is going to have the power to govern for the entire society. And then we also have a focus on a written constitution. A written constitution is a document that establishes the principles, institutions, and powers of a government. And by writing it down, that gives so much power to those who follow that constitution. And if there's any question about whether that constitution is being followed, it's written down. And so there is going to be an anchor through which people know what the powers of government are, how they can be implemented, as well as there's going to be an ongoing question about how to interpret the words of that Constitution, and that breeds healthy debate as well. What about the ancient Romans? The ancient Romans believed in the concept of republicanism. Republicanism is the belief that citizens should participate in government for the sake of the common good. So the concept of a republic is rule through representation, which you see on the next line on this slide, when in reality, republicanism can also include self-representation. By the citizens participating in government, they are representing their own interests. And by representing their own interests, they are then focusing on the concept of the common good. What is good for the public? What is good for all the people? Then we talk about representative government. Representative government means that being elected by citizens, individuals should represent citizens' concerns and interests when governing, meaning that people who are representing the other people in government who voted for them, that they're going to have a set of interests and a set of concerns that they're going to bring to those legislative bodies and then engage in discussions in ways that are in the best interest of the people that they represent, which we often call constituents. The rule of law is that set of rules that requires that those who govern must follow the law. This means the people who write the laws must also follow the laws. No one is above the law. That people don't write laws for other people to follow. People write laws for the entire community to follow, whether it's a local, state, national, or international system. And then we have a focus on separation of powers. With a focus on separation of powers, each power of government possesses its own distinct powers and responsibilities. This means that not only are the powers separated, but the people with the powers are separated. Ideally, then, the members of the legislature are also not in the judicial branch or in the executive branch. So how did the Greeks and Romans influence the constitutional republic? Well, Greek and Roman influences are very much evident. In the United States, we have a written constitution. It was finished in 1787. It was ratified in 1788 and took effect that same year, electing our first government in 1789. Our written constitution includes a legislative body of elected officials who make the laws in a government institution that is separate from other government institutions. This means that those who hold power in the legislature are not responsible for enforcing the laws because enforcement belongs in the executive branch. Similarly, people who are in the legislative branch are also not responsible for adjudicating the laws or judging the laws. That would be the responsibility of the judicial branch. Greek and Roman influences are also seen in the U.S. Bill of Rights and the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, because the U.S. Bill of Rights focuses on the concept of equality under the law at the national level, where the 14th Amendment brings the concept of equality under the law to the state level. Thank you so much for joining me today for Middle School Civics Highlights, focusing on the Roman and Greek influence on America's constitutional republic. Do you still have questions? If so, please contact us using the information that appears on the screen. Till next time, I'm Dr. Terry Susan Fine. Thank you for joining me.